Jean-Luc Godard is a French-Swiss film director and critic, widely known as an innovator in the 1960s French New Wave film movement.
Moteur.
He is seen as the most radical filmmaker in the New Wave, challenging many conventions in mainstream French cinema while expressing his deeply personal and political visions of the world.
Je pense qu'il faudrait me demander plus ce que je pense de l'Europe, du Vietnam ou des choses comme ça.
As a young man studying in Paris, Godard was exposed to the growing culture of ciné clubs, where film enthusiasts would gather to discuss films and film theory. Godard became hooked to this culture, which would soon give birth to the French New Wave.
La caméra, c'est l'art, ou alors le contraire.
While in Paris, Godard became friends with François Truffaut and Jacques Rivette, who shared his love of film, and would all three go on to become filmmakers. Soon Godard became involved with the famous French film journal Cahiers du Cinéma, which attacked the tradition of quality filmmaking popular in France during the 1940s. Traditional quality filmmaking privileged the screenwriter over the director and gave credit to craft over innovation in films. Critics at Cahiers followed the auteur theory, crediting the director's personal creative vision in a film and viewing the director as having the most impact on the film's overall style. Many of these critics looked to American directors who displayed stylistic consistencies, such as Alfred Hitchcock. They considered many of these directors auteurs and would later be largely influenced by their films.
Oui, mais je pense que c'est bien d'avoir été critique, c'est une bonne formation.
Mais est-ce que ça ne risque pas de stériliser l'imagination?
Non, parce que moi, ça m'a fait tout aimer. Ça m'a appris à ne pas être sectaire, à ne pas refuser.
In the beginning of his filmmaking career, Godard experimented with a variety of Hollywood genres. These include the political thriller, the musical, the war film, and the romantic tragedy. But before any of these, in 1960, Godard directed his first and most famous feature-length film, Breathless. Breathless follows a French criminal and his American girlfriend through the streets of Paris in an improvise and loose style. Godard displays both his love and knowledge of film history with many references to the American film star Humphrey Bogart. As well, Godard displays his desire to engage the audience in a political discourse, breaking many rules of continuity editing.
Ou des lois comme ça, c'était de montrer que tout ça était sans aucune valeur.
For example, characters in Breathless often directly address the camera, which reminds the audience the fact that they are watching a film and invites them to question and criticize what they are watching. Jump cuts are also commonly used, which force the audience out of the narrative to critically observe what they are watching.
De très jolies poignets, un très joli front, de très jolis genoux.
In all of this, Jean-Luc Godard asked the audience to take part in the film, which is very different from the styles of Hollywood. Breathless is shot on the streets of Paris using lightweight portable cameras that move with the actors. There were no lighting or sound studios that were used, which is very common of the traditional quality filmmaking in earlier periods. Breathless can be seen as a classic French New Wave film, and while it was very innovative, Godard's later films would become more questioning and critical of film history itself, with much darker themes.
Là, les gens me font totalement confiance, alors j'espère que je vais les décevoir. Comme ça, ils me feront plus confiance et j'aime mieux travailler avec des gens contre lesquels il faut lutter.
5 years after making Breathless in 1965, Godard created Alphaville, a science fiction noir that follows secret agent Lemmy Caution into the dystopian technocratic dictatorship of Alphaville, where people live purely by logic, devoid of emotions under the commanding, omnipresent voice of overlord computer Alpha 60. Caution is on a mission to kill the creator of Alphaville, Professor Von Braun, as well as Alpha 60, to free the city. The film contains elements of classic science fiction, as well as drawing upon the literary tradition of many classic science fiction novels. This includes the theme of dehumanization, rule by artificial intelligence, and the display of political oppression from totalitarian societies, and failing to articulate a vision of a collective or individual life beyond work. For example, George Orwell's novel 1984 contains a dystopian society very reminiscent of Alphaville, where everyone is ruled under the watchful eye of Big Brother and forced to use newspeak, a language used to limit the freedom of thought of all citizens.
Ne raconte jamais à l'exploité comment il l'exploite.
Parce que c'est ça le cinéma, les romans, la presse, la télé, c'est raconter.
While Alphaville makes use of this classic structure, as a film, it displays many unique elements which contrast greatly with other science fiction films. Visually, the entire film is very dark, being shot throughout Paris without any lighting studios, but in a natural darkness, which resulted in some 3,000 meters of unusable footage, some of which Godard used anyways. The film displays a strong influence from German Expressionism with its monochrome and theatrical scenes. Rather than using the futuristic sets and props which are very common in science fiction films, Alphaville was shot on location in Paris, using futuristic architecture built during the 1960s, as well as the dark and scummy streets of Paris. But piercing through this darkness is Eddie Constantine in his white Ford Galaxy, wearing a long trench coat and always a craggy expression on his stone-chiseled face. Undoubtedly an American private eye figure who disregards everyone he comes into contact with in Alphaville, and is always accompanied by an ominous and suspenseful musical theme. While Caution works to unravel the secrets of Alphaville early in the film, we see that his character is not limited to the present moment of individual oppression compared to everyone else in the film. He is constantly taking pictures with his camera, something which is completely foreign to Alphaville, where no one thinks of the past or the future, where people only know words that are deemed logical by Alpha 60.
La conscience.
La conscience.
La conscience.
Indeed, time takes on an interesting representation in Alphaville, where everything seems to move in a kind of circular motion. The city itself is circular, as well as Caution's hotel suite, and all of the spiral staircases have a circular form. Alpha 60 itself says,
Le temps est comme un cercle qui tournerait sans fin.
And everyone in Alphaville seems to talk in circles, saying you must never say why, but only because.
À quel moment j'ai dit pourquoi?
This seems to represent the tyranny of computers in a circular form. In this city, those who behave illogically are publicly executed in pools by women in swimsuits wielding knives.
Mais qu'est-ce qu'ils ont fait? Ils ont agi de façon illogique.
It seems that the very commonplace violence and murder in Alphaville does not reflect what we as the audience actually see or hear. For example, while someone is being killed, we see beautiful women in swimsuits, and while Agent Caution is fighting in his hotel room, we hear only happy classical music. Yet several elements of this film do oppose this darkness and oppression. From the moment we are introduced to Natasha with soft romantic music, she appears to be a kind of light for Caution to hold on to in this darkness. She tries to resist the grasp of Alphaville and learn more about the free outlands where Agent Caution is from.
Mais dans les pays extérieurs, ce n'est pas la même chose, Monsieur Johnson.
And much of her dialogue with Caution breaks the fourth wall, which is unsettling and invites the audience to question her interesting and complicated character. This is made very interesting by the fact that Caution destroys Alpha 60 at the end of the film with poetry, being something it could not understand and which sent everyone in Alphaville into a zombie-like state of disarray.
Si vous le trouvez, vous vous détruirez en même temps, car vous serez devenu mon semblable, mon frère.
The use of negative shots at the end of the film signifies Caution's reversal of Alphaville. What was previously black is now white, showing how Caution has flipped around Alphaville into a world with hopefully more freedom and less oppression. So ultimately, Godard's answer to the corrupt and bleak world of Alphaville is poetry, the power of personal expression and creativity which have disappeared in this futuristic city in Paris. But what makes this so interesting is that Alphaville's use of location shooting and actual buildings situates us not in an unrealistic future, but in a very realistic view of what the present could look like. Indeed, Alphaville displays many references to pop culture and eroticism that are all too familiar to the viewer. Godard is expressing a bitterness for the future of France as well as for mankind. This stems from the dehumanization of individuals, which was a very relevant concern in France at the time, as it was facing an identity crisis in the 60s and 70s, with many individuals very concerned about their future, as well as many questions being raised about the rise of global technology and computing. At the end of the film, Godard offers a hope for the future as Natasha is finally able to speak freely, free from the grips of Alpha 60. While driving away from Alphaville, she's hopefully moving to a better life of poetry and expression.
Je vous aime.
Yet questions still remain. What is the meaning of love? What is the meaning of happiness? Is it right to question our own existence? All of these questions are highly debatable through the images and sounds of Alphaville, explored in a highly philosophical discourse throughout the film. Looking past the film itself, many modern science fiction movies display a large influence from Alphaville, mainly the 1982 classic neo-noir Blade Runner. Although Blade Runner offers a much more futuristic look into science fiction with many special effects and props, the film's main protagonists and storylines share a high resemblance. Both Agent Caution and Agent Deckard are on missions to destroy artificial intelligence and help restore humanity. Both of these characters complicate the idea of morality and identity in the future, with the highly similar conflicted characters Rachel and Natasha sharing lead female roles. Both Alphaville and Blade Runner offer uncertain endings, but give the possibility of hope and of love to mankind in the future.